All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the first session of the Safe Workplaces Dialogues, which is a monthly discussion series focused on key aspects of workplace safety and compliance. Now, each of these sessions will feature HR leaders, compliance experts, legal advisors, and thought leaders who will share their insights, discuss challenges, and provide actionable strategies to help you build a safer and more compliant workplace. I am Srimoy, currently the Chief Content Officer at Locubeta, and I'll be guiding our conversation today on combating workplace sexual harassment in Indian workplaces. Now, we all are aware that we spend a significant portion of our lives at work, and that too the most active hours of the day. When that space becomes unsafe or uncomfortable, it can lead to significant challenges in our lives. And that's why it's crucial for everyone to feel secure and at ease in their workplaces. The issue of workplace sexual harassment is an important and sensitive topic, as we all know. And today we are going to dive deep into the legal, organizational, and the social aspects of creating safer workplaces. We have an incredible panel of experts with us today who will be sharing their insights and experiences. Let me introduce them. So joining us today are Ruchira Banerjee, a seasoned lawyer specializing in PoSH compliance. She's also on the internal committee of reputed organizations as an external member. She conducts training and awareness programs for various stakeholders and also assists in redressing complaints related to workplace sexual harassment. Welcome, Ruchira. We also have the internal committee members of Medi Assist, comprising of Shubhra Singh. Shubhra is an accomplished professional with over 24 years of experience in the healthcare industry. Currently, Shubhra is heading the customer solutions function at Medi Assist, where she is dedicated to delivering outstanding customer support solutions. She is also the chairperson of the PoSH committee at Medi Assist, a role that she considers as a very important one to ensure that a safe and respectful workplace is maintained for all employees. Very happy to have you with us today, Shubhra. Welcome.
Thanks, Srimoy. Thank you.
We also have Sumalata CK. She is a senior manager HR associated with Medi Assist for the past 12 years. She also serves as the IC member for the PoSH committee and the Pan-India Committee Coordinator at Medi Assist. Thank you for joining us today, Sumalata. Welcome.
Thank you, Srimoy.
We also have Dr. Srinath Bhatt. Dr. Srinath is a medical and management professional with 13 plus years of experience in the health insurance industry and 9 plus years in Medi Assist alone. He is presently working in the capacity of Assistant Vice President and heading Hospital Network Strategy and Digitization. He is also a part of the IC committee at Medi Assist. Welcome, Dr. Srinath. We are
Thank you.
really grateful to have all of you here. Now, our aim today is to explore different perspectives and share best practices for effectively addressing the issue of workplace sexual harassment. We'll cover topics such as preventive measures, best practices, challenges, along with a review of the basics of the PoSH Act. Towards the end, we'll open the floor for an interactive Q&A session. So let's dive right in. Now we have divided it into a few rounds, starting with the first round, which is brushing up on the basics. Now in this round, we'll revisit the fundamental aspects of the PoSH Act and the steps organizations are taking to remain compliant. So my first question is for you, Shubhra. We know that while the PoSH Act is designed specifically to protect women from sexual harassment, Medi Assist has taken a remarkable step by implementing a gender neutral policy. So, could you share the thought process behind this decision and how it was implemented?
Sure. So happy to. So at Medi Assist, the core belief behind adopting a gender neutral policy for combating workplace harassment stems from the idea that safety and dignity in workplace are universal rights and they are irrespective of any gender. So while the PoSH Act does a very good job of protecting women, we just believe that it could happen to anybody, regardless of gender. And so we have a gender neutral policy. Some very important aspects would be, inclusivity, because at Medi Assist, we believe that every employee, regardless of gender, should feel safe and respected at work. And a gender neutral approach ensures that the policy protects all individuals and doesn't leave out any potential victims of harassment. And plus, the entire thing about the modern workplace dynamics, that seems to be changing. And as work environments become more diverse, gender identities go beyond the traditional binary definitions. Adopting a gender neutral policy acknowledges this shift. And that's what, we also believe in. Plus, this beautifully fits into, our company culture. So it aligns with the, broader commitment that Medi Assist has of fostering equality, diversity, and inclusion. So these are a few things that we believe, work for us having a gender neutral policy. And in terms of implementation, of course, we have updated the language of the policy to cover all genders. So while the PoSH Act says only women, we've sort of covered the wider range. Plus, reinforcement of gender neutral policy during training, refresher sessions has been very normal for us. We always make sure that we put in questions and we seek answers to basic questions like, is it a gender neutral policy? Can only women raise complaints? So we've done a lot of work to make sure that everyone in the organization understands what this means.
Very true, very true. I think that's something that other companies will eventually think in the same lines, and hopefully the law maybe it will amend.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Shubhra. Moving on to you, Ruchira. Now, we often talk about the two types of sexual harassment. One is quid pro quo, which is this for that, where someone, in a senior position asks for sexual favors in exchange for a promotion or raise. And the other one is hostile work environment, where certain actions, even if unintentional, create discomfort and makes the other person uncomfortable. Now, this one is very tricky because sometimes the person creating the hostile work environment may have no intention at all, or probably doesn't even know. So, could you share some real life examples of such hostile work environment related complaints you have encountered in your experience?
Absolutely. I'm so glad we're talking about this because, like you said, hostile work environment can get very tricky and very sticky, right? Because you don't realize what you're saying, what you're doing is actually making it hostile for somebody else. So I'll just share one incident that one of the organizations as an internal committee we had handled, where a male colleague had filed a complaint with us saying that a female colleague of his who sits beside him speaks to her boyfriend over phone, and the kind of conversation she has with her boyfriend is very personal, and to a certain extent it's quite obscene to him, right? Because the kind of conversation she has, it's like, about their weekend plans and very, very personal in nature, right? But she's having this conversation, it's not directed towards this guy, right? She's doing her own thing, but it's not directed towards this guy. But we still took up this matter because, first of all, in a workplace, you are supposed to be aware of your conduct. You should be aware of what you're saying, right? Even I think, at least for me, I call it an occupational hazard, at least for me, because 24 hours I'm talking about prevention of sexual harassment, right? So I have to be also very careful of what I'm saying, where I'm saying. and in what context, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, even you as a company, you're dealing with such a sensitive matter. We do discuss cases, we do discuss about certain incidents, right? And sometimes we kind of lose control of what you're saying because we are just stating facts, but it could be unwelcome to other person who's listening to it, right? So that's one form of hostile work environment. And some of the examples that are very, I mean, see, if you look at the poster that's behind me, I mean, when COVID hit, we all went to work from home mode, right? And we were receiving so many complaints from people who were saying that, I felt uncomfortable when that person joined the meeting because that person was inappropriately dressed or they had a weird, obscene background, right? So, these very small things, even I think the common ones would be spreading rumors. Somebody gets a promotion and it's so easy for us to judge. We are humans after all, right? So it's so easy for us to judge, oh acha, she got promotion, she's spending so much time with the manager, no, that's why. Yeah. Or her face got it, or her body got the promotion. So these things lead to hostile work environment. I think the key here is to be very aware of what you're saying and your conduct, even sometimes our face, our hand gestures, right? These things need to be mindful. So we shouldn't do anything that should make anybody else uncomfortable, even though it is not directly directed towards them. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Very much. I think all of us here should make a mental note of what Ruchira just said, because maybe we don't have the same wavelength with everyone. And
Absolutely.
with person A, we say something casually, and it could be very uncomfortable for person B, and we probably don't even realize. But yeah,
Absolutely.
so mindful conversation and conduct would be the key. That's very eye-opening. Thank you, Ruchira, for sharing that example.
Sure.
Okay, next question is for you, Sumalata. We all know that the PoSH Act mandates several obligations for companies, forming IC, annual report, many things. Now, could you share with us today what measures Medi Assist has implemented to remain compliant with these requirements?
Well, when you reflect this forming committee, establishing policies, and conducting a regular trainings, so these three parameters, they directly reflect the three aspects of the PoSH Act. We talk about prevention, prohibition, and redressal, right? So you need an ongoing training to prevent any such kind of a harassment. You need a policy for the governance purpose, which will help you in prohibition. And of course, you need an IC committee for the redressal. So three are interlinked to provide the safe workspace for all of our employees, right? At Medi Assist, we do conduct trainings in different forms. Like, for example, all our workforces, irrespective whether they are contractual, employee, intern, trainee, be anybody. So they go through a comprehensive training module. So thanks to Docubator, which has helped us for that in this way. And also we have the language also as well. We have which is runs in Hindi, English, and Tamil. So it helps them to pick up their own choice of language and understand and then complete the course, and they get certified as well. So this is one form of a training where we have chosen, and it is so that we have also restricted the number of attempts in clearing the tests, so that we at any given point of time we know is whether anybody has any understanding problem or anything such like that. Once we notice that anybody has not cleared beyond the 3 attempts, we quickly pick them up and they make sure they go through the classroom session so that they understand better. So this is for the one set of a workforce. Coming to the IC, IC, we have a separate, again, online module for our IC member. Plus, any IC member, before they're onboarded under the committee, they go through a round of a classroom session by a legal practitioner so that she makes them understand all the policies, terms and conditions and everything. And in every quarterly meeting, we do discuss about the case studies so that they are better sensitized on the current the changes in the act or a law. So this is for the IC member. So again, we have another set of the workforces who maybe bases the skills. We do a regular ongoing trainings. There's a regular session which is done in multiple languages, like we do in Hindi, English, Kannada, Tamil, Marathi. Basis where they can understand the do's and don'ts of the act, right? So this is also inclusive for the our vendor staff like security, the facilities, the pantries, it is extended for all the workforce. The only purpose is, as you rightly said, the major of the time is spent at the office and they should feel safe wherever they are working. This is the purpose behind the training.
That's amazing, Sumalata. That's so much thinking has gone into designing the whole awareness sessions, and it's not just a checklist for you guys. And that's why I'm glad we are featuring you in the very first session of the Safe Workplaces Dialogues.
Yeah,
Just a
we are too
follow-up
glad.
questions.
Yeah.
Question: What's the what method do you follow when somebody is onboarded, like a new employee? Does that person go through a training session immediately or later, or how do you design it when somebody is onboarded?
Yes. See, well, we believe that onboarding is very crucial for any new joiner, right? And training is not only for the self development, it's also for the mutual respect wherever they are working in, right? So from the day one, we make sure that they are imbibed with the company values, the whatever the policies. We brief them in the induction program, right? So first our agenda is,
Got it.
if you see in our onboarding room itself, we have displayed the PoSH posters.
Very
The
nice.
moment they get into the onboarding room, they can see in the first instance what are the do's and don'ts, whom they can contact, and in a brief we have displayed. That itself will help them to understand what and we are as an organization. The second thing, the induction, the program also has a separate slide briefing them about the PoSH awareness, right? After this, after the OJT is completed, again they go through a comprehensive training module so that they are sensitized in a complete way. This is how we follow for the new set of joiners.
Amazing. The idea of having displayed the posters in the induction room is, I think, brilliant. I mean, from day zero, you're starting that culture, and it's really, really remarkable. And a very good point. I think all of us can note it down. Very interesting. Thank you, Sumalata. Next question for Dr. Srinath. How does Medi Assist deal with false or malicious complaints?
Oh, that's a very simple question. It's just one word answer. I would say that termination, right? Our motto, Medi Assist motto itself is every employee is a partner, right? So we treat our employees as our partner. So
very nice.
And the second important thing in our culture is the integrity, right? We imbibe integrity into each and every employee. Having a false complaint or a malicious complaint is not only wasting most of our time, but also in fact questioning the integrity of a colleague, right? It is not only questioning the integrity of a colleague, but also they're having a mental trauma. So the burden of proof is on the respondent, right? He'll have to or she'll have to prove himself not guilty. So there's a lot of mental trauma. There's a lot of mental stress that the colleague will undergo. So there is a zero tolerance policy that we have. In fact, this has been included in all our training sessions that the false and malicious complaints will have serious consequences, and this has been told to each and every employees in their training sessions as well. So cutting short, yes, we have a zero tolerance policy, and we just say thank you very much, and we terminate. That's what happens in Medi Assist.
Got it. That should act as a deterrent for others as well. All right, moving on to round 2, which is the best practices buzz. Now, in this round, we'll discuss the latest trends and best practices in preventing workplace sexual harassment. So, we'll start with you, Sumarata. What's one quick tip for someone wanting to report harassment? Like, what would be a good practice to follow?
So while the Act very clearly says, right, so any unwelcome behavior which is directly or indirectly having a sexual implication needs to be reported, right? See, it is not a matter of right? Nobody can harass us. It's important that wherever you are feeling, you're working, you need to feel safer workspace, right? So the moment somebody wants to complain, I would really advise them just make a journal of all the events in which way you're being harassed. So make an entry of all the time, date, the location, right? And please look for any bystander or a witness who can really be of your help to support during the redressal mechanism. And then more importantly, be very impartial when you do the reporting of the complaint, right? You should not have a prejudice in your mind that yes, I don't like this person, so I want to complain against him. It shouldn't be your mindset, right? You be very impartial when you do the complaint.
Right. You also mentioned a very important point regarding the bystander, noticing if there was any witness or bystander. So, on the same lines, Ruchira, my next question is, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who witnesses workplace sexual harassment, basically a bystander?
Okay, so I would like to give two pieces of advice here, if I may. So one is whether you are directly an witness to an incident, or somebody comes up to you as a friend colleague, right? We all have friend colleagues whom we kind of confine into, and we say that this has happened to us. First thing is stand up for that aggrieved person, right? Support them that yes, there's an internal committee, you must file a complaint, and whatever help is required, if you want me to write it, I will write it down for you. All these help, right? Later on, of course, the internal committee will call the aggrieved person and do the whole redressal process. That's there. That is one where you stand up for the aggrieved and you stand up against the harasser. That is definitely there, right? Second piece of advice would be to maintain confidentiality, right? Because if an aggrieved person is walking up to you and saying you about an incident they have faced, you should not make that information as a water cooler conversation, right? And it should not be a forward in your WhatsApp group that what, I got to know about this, and this has happened. Yeah, because I mean, nowadays we do that, right? The first thing we pick up our phones on WhatsApp, what, I need to speak to you, there is some news here, right? So I think maintaining confidentiality is something that is extremely important. Another thing is that sometimes even internal committee members also become direct witness to an incident. So in those cases, the internal committee member also needs to step down from their position of a committee member for that particular complaint, because they become a witness for that particular incident, right? So you cannot be a committee member and a witness. So you step down, and at least I have done it for one of the incidents where I was a witness and I stepped down from that committee, and I became a witness for that incident, right?
Okay, so you just serve as a witness, you don't actually take part in the proceedings.
Correct, for that particular complaint. Later on, again, I go back to my own role as a committee member, of course, but for that particular incident, you need to step down and be cooperative with the internal committee in providing information, right? So yeah, that's about it.
That's very, very fair and unbiased approach.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, next question is for Dr. Srinath. How can technology be used to enhance workplace safety and support victims of workplace sexual harassment?
So you all know that technology is a part and parcel of our day-to-day activity presently. To start with, I'm thanks to Locubator, it has a fantastic platform that has been provided to us, which we, as Suma told earlier, that we do have the training sessions for our IC members, training session to each and every employees, and there is refreshers course as well, and everything. Considering the locations that we have, we are present in close to 40 locations, 40 plus locations, pan India, and having 7,000 plus employees in our organization. Starting from even the vendors, if you include even the vendors, we have employees at different locations, right? Reaching them, having a one-to-one session, having a Zoom session with them might not be practically possible, considering we'll have to consider our regular works, our productivity, everything, right? So platforms like Lockubator has given us a beautiful content which will reach to the lowest of the employees as well. Because if you see the diversity of the employees that we have employees from, let's say, out of 12th standard, even to an employee who is a postgraduate from IIMs and IITs, right? So having a content which is reachable to the lowest of the employees, which is understandable to them, and to ensure that the right message is passed on to them, because you all know that it is a very thin line, right? A very thin line, and it's a very sensitive subject as well. So ensuring that the messages, the awareness is passed on to each and every employees, I think technology is the way forward, right? Apart from this, what we have also done is, in terms of displaying, we have a lot of screens across our organizations, across different floors. We ensure that there are a lot of messaging posters, messaging caricatures, messaging goes on through this screens across all the floors. Apart from that, we have our digital assets, right? For example, a laptop or a desktop, where the desktop screen savers or the desktop wallpapers will be with a lot of information regarding PoSH, where to reach out to, what needs to be done when you see a incident happening. So these things can be done. Apart from this, what can be done in future? AI, I mean, that's the buzzword, right? AI is the buzzword. Since it's a professional setting, and there is the emails, the chats which happens under a professional settings can also be monitored, right? That's definitely not a breach of privacy, because it's all happening on a professional setting, right? So the kinds of messages, that is, if there is a pattern that is being seen in the messages or the mails that is going through use of AI, it can pick up the signals of a possible sexual harassment in future as well, right? So this is something which is futuristic. Apart from that, we have a lot of people who are going to our client's place, right? We can have variables. I mean, we can have the GPS tracking to understand where they are, what they are doing, and we can have some kind of an SOS button if at all, if they are facing some kind of a sexual harassment at the client's place, right? Some kind of an SOS button. So technology can be used extensively. But right now, what we are doing is, with our limited space, is creating awareness, creating a lot of information, ensuring that the people are vocal about it, right? That is more important. People being vocal about the sensitive topic is very important, and that is what we are doing using technology.
That's great. I think you have given us a lot of futuristic ideas about what Lockubator can do in the future.
I don't mind the consultation fees.
That's very insightful, and especially the fact that you are using desktop screensavers with the relevant information. That's fantastic. I mean, that's something I think all of us can take a mental note of. Okay, moving on to Shubhra. What recent trend in workplace safety excites you?
Actually, if I think to this, Dr. Srinath sort of has answered, because technology is, the recent thing that can be used in so many ways, and he's already sort of called everything out. But what I would like to say is, in terms of awareness, what we're already doing, with the online courses that Better offers, plus, we have this monthly newsletter, and not even a single newsletter for employees goes out which does not mention PoSH. So, a PoSH policy and where to reach out. Plus, our intranet carries the PoSH policy, and so we've been able to actually reach out. And I'm, in a way, really proud to tell you today that 50% of our complaints are actually coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Like, like we're getting something from Patna, Guwahati. Otherwise, they are just out of sight and probably out of mind. Head office being here and all the large offices being in other metros. So, so it's really something that's reached to the end customer, and it really makes us really proud that people are looking, reading, understanding, and reaching out. Which takes a lot of guts. And in smaller cities are different, right? Things work very differently in those cities. So that's one thing. And the other thing that's happened is that 30% of the complaints that we are getting today are people calling out work ethics related issues on PoSH, because they know only PoSH. It's like they know PoSH so much and so well that they're writing to us for those things as well. So no, it's so I think technology can do wonders, and that's something that we really look forward to.
Great. It really shows how much your efforts towards these training sessions and awareness sessions, it has reached to what level. Really remarkable achievement. All right, so we'll move on to the next round 3. This is called myth versus fact. And this time we are going to give our speakers a little bit of rest, and we'll hear from our audience. Now, it's very simple. It's a quick round of myth versus fact, which is nothing but plain and simple true and false, or yes or no. I'll read a statement and you can respond via chat if you think it's true or false. Okay, ready? First question. Let me see if I might just put it up on chat also. Okay, let's see. First, if a victim doesn't report harassment immediately, it doesn't really bother them. True or false? Use the chat. If a victim doesn't report workplace sexual harassment immediately, it doesn't really bother them. Anybody? False, 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 or false? Right. Anything you would want to add, Ruchira? If a victim doesn't report harassment immediately, it doesn't really bother them. Everybody says false.
Yeah, and I agree to it.
Correct.
I absolutely agree to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, just a little bit of information here that there is a time limitation, though. Like the Act says, you have 3 months, right, Ruchira?
Yes, 3 months from the date of the incident.
Yes. All right. Next question. Very simple. Only physical contact constitutes sexual harassment. All false, right. Shubhra, would you like to give a few examples of non-physical harassments that we commonly see or can think of?
Yeah, so one thing that's becoming really common is, people sending out messages on WhatsApp or, Instagram. So all these social media channels and chatbots, etc., people are using these to sort of, build a connect and try and express things that maybe are not appropriate. So while it's not physical, but really something that's not appropriate, that's not correct, right? So that's something that I've seen often in cases that have come to us.
Absolutely. And especially in some companies who are working remotely or hybrid like us, and workplace sexual harassment need not be physical at all. There's so much non-verbal and even verbal. Okay, moving on. This was very easy. Should have made a little more trickier questions. Okay. Sexual harassment only occurs between employees of different genders. Sexual harassment only occurs between employees of different genders. False. Right. Anything you would want to add, Sumalata, on this context?
No, it's again a false. Need not be. It can be between the same gender as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's good to see that there's no doubt regarding this anymore. I mean, it's a flood of false immediately. Good. All sexual jokes or comments made in the workplace are harmless as long as they are intended for fun. All sexual jokes or comments made in the workplace are harmless as long as they are intended for fun. Right. This would, it reminds me of what Ruchira was saying some time back, that sometimes we say things casually, but no matter how casual it is, no matter even if it's intended for fun, it is not harmless. There could be someone who's feeling uncomfortable, to whom it is unwelcome. To that person, it is a hostile work environment. So no, it's not harmless. Next question. Small businesses are exempt from the PoSH Act. Small businesses are exempt from the PoSH Act. False. Anything you would want to add, Dr. Srinath, regarding the size of the company?
So I think the employees, if the employee strength is 10 or more, they are supposed to have a PoSH committee and a PoSH training that needs to be done in their company. Hope I have taken my training correctly.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what the law says. That's what you need an IC if you have more than 10 companies. But Ruchira, what's the what happens when there are less than 10 employees? I mean, what would you suggest to such a company?
See, the law doesn't stop you to have a PoSH policy in place. Okay, it just says that when you have 10 employees, you need to have an internal committee in place, because in internal committee, you already need 3 people, right? So out of 10, if 3 people are committee members, then there are 7 people more amongst the employees, right? So internal committee could be a practical challenge to form. But in your PoSH policy, some of the companies that at least I have worked with, we have defined the policy and we have said that, see, 2 people, maybe one senior HR person or one lady senior level woman employee who are sensitive enough to look into these matters, they can look into it, right? And in fact, the law also specifically defines that if a complaint is against the employer, or where because there are less than 10 employees, there is no internal committee, a complaint of sexual harassment must be filed with the local committee, which is situated at the district level of where your office is situated, right? So that option is, the law has already given. But at the company level, you can always have a policy. There is no harm to have a policy and to define how you will look into the matter. Yeah.
Okay, last one. Anonymous complaints are allowed under the PoSH Act. Anonymous complaints are allowed under the PoSH Act. Everybody is thinking a bit.
It's a tricky one.
Finally. The law is silent on this, right?
The law actually asks for a written complaint, but a lot of times, internal committee just cannot brush it under the carpet because it's an anonymous complaint, right? So sometimes when we receive an anonymous complaint, we know that, okay, something is wrong in the organization, and not as an internal committee, but as a disciplinary committee, we try to look into it, right? Because the internal committee doesn't have the power to look into an anonymous complaint. If we get enough information where we are in a position to recommend action, then it's fine. Because see, the internal committee also needs to give fair chance to all the parties involved, who is blaming whom, all these things needs to be done, right? But also in some situations where we do receive anonymous complaint and which are the nature of complaint is quite grave, then as a disciplinary committee, we try to look into it. Because it could be either the allegations made are actually true or it could be false, right? So we just can't take decisions on basis of an anonymous complaint. We really have to look into it to come to a conclusion. So, yeah.
So, Swikriti Banerjee asks, later his or her name will be declared, right? So, Ruchira, like what Ruchira said, maybe not as an internal committee, as a disciplinary committee, they would start the investigation. And once it progresses, maybe the name will come. Eventually, it has to come up, right? Otherwise,
yeah, it has to come up within the committee, but there will be no breach of confidentiality. So, it's not that just because the name has come out, we kind of, talk about it and kind of make a publication around it. No. If the internal committee comes to know about it and they have the names, they will handle it, but there will be no breach of confidentiality. That is absolutely prohibited under the law. Like, even if you're party to the complaint, if you're an internal committee or a witness or any person who knows about the incident, should not breach confidentiality. So that is something that is taken care of. But yeah, if certain things are established, certain names are involved, and we try to involve people into looking to prove the anonymous complaint, if at all, then in that case names do come up, but confidentiality is maintained. So that's definitely taken care of.
One last question. It's not really a true false. It's a MCQ, multiple choice question. It's for everyone. Who do you think plays the biggest role in preventing workplace sexual harassment? Who do you think plays the biggest role in preventing workplace sexual harassment? 1, the HR. 2, leadership. 3, employees. 4, internal committee. Now, there's no right and wrong answer. It's just perspective. So, feel free to share your thoughts, both audience and the panel. Who do you think plays the biggest role? HR, leadership, employees, internal committee. Employees, everyone, employees. Interesting. Others, all of us, leadership, all of the above. Aman says leadership. Others, what do you guys think? Management and leadership. Oops. All coming towards leadership. HR, all of the above. Right. Okay. So what do you think, Dr. Srinath?
I think it's all of the above, right? I mean, it can't be just one wheel. I think it's the four wheels of a car, right? If management is not supportive, I mean, how much ever interested you are to ensure that the PoSH awareness is done, I mean, it will not happen. And the employees are not supporting in terms of completing their courses, again the success will be much lesser, right? So it's not independent, it's interdependent, is what I say.
Beautifully said. I think it just answers this question in the perfect way. All right, moving on to the round 4, changes and challenges round. In this round, we'll hear about some of the challenges organizations face in preventing workplace sexual harassment and some ideas for improvements. Starting with you, Ruchira, what's the most creative way you have seen an organization promote a sexual harassment-free workplace?
See, I think mostly we have all discussed about, how all of us are trying to create awareness and, make the internal committee approachable to everyone. I think we have spoken about technology, we have spoken about AI, right? So again, I'll take liberty to say 2 things here. One is, we do have posters, right? At least in the office premises, we do have posters. Now, I don't know whether it's human psychology or what it is. When we look at the same thing again and again, we tend to not look at it at all, right?
Very true.
Once we look at it, okay, something interesting has come up. Let me just see what is it, right? as the day goes by, we don't even look at it, right? So I feel companies should invest a little more in changing the posters once in a while, once in 6 months or once in a year. You change the pattern, you change the color. A little change can actually attract some eyes on that, where you can, okay, that same information, but in a different packaging, right? So that is one. And second is, for one of our clients, I think we had seen where they had these tissue boxes in washroom, in boardrooms, meeting rooms, and that tissue boxes also carried that message. And it need not be like something very bold, like sexual harassment, this, that, nothing. Simple. We are zero tolerant towards workplace sexual harassment. Or do you have a question? Contact this email ID, right? It does not need to be always on the face, but something very subtle. The whole idea is that in whatever language, you and wherever you put these information out, people know that, okay, if something is wrong, I need to reach out to the internal committee. That should be the whole idea, right? So I think these are the two things that I feel is doable at company level. And I found it to be quite interesting.
That's such a simple and effective, such a brilliant idea. The tissue boxes, we are always reaching out for it, whether in the boardroom or in the washroom. Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. Also the posters. Okay, Shubhra, if you could change one thing about the PoSH Act, what would it be?
So, Shrimar, I keep talking about the same thing. So while the Act does a remarkable job of addressing the issue of sexual harassment for women in workplace, it currently limits its application to women only, right? So expanding its language to protect individuals of all genders would really make the law more inclusive and reflective of today's workplace reality, really. So I think this is one thing that I would want to change in the PoSH Act.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, whenever this question is asked, that's the first thing that everybody says. It's definitely, it should be gender neutral, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Dr. Srinath, what's the biggest challenge you have encountered in preventing workplace sexual harassment?
Okay. So, considering the cultural fabric that we have come from, we have all grown, right? Sexual harassment is a very sensitive topic. It's a oh my god topic, right? There are multiple challenges, but the one striking, the top of the list challenge that we have faced is the COVID, right? Changing the complete work culture, going into a complete work from home environment, working remotely. It was new for us, changing, invoking the BCPs, but ensuring the PoSH guidelines in a virtual environment, in a remotely working environment, was the biggest challenge. We continuously contacted our external IC member, ensuring what are the policies, what needs to be done, what needs to be communicated to the our employees, as rightly said by Ruchira. The backgrounds, right? What needs to be in the background? What needs to be your attires? These are small things which we might not think that it is a major thing. That was the biggest challenge for us. Luckily, we came with flying colors. Apart from that, the second biggest challenge, it's a personal experience as well, right? Being a male, ensuring the complainant, mostly, the complaints that we have mostly got is the female folks, right? Ensuring that the complainant is comfortable when a male member is present in the committee, and ensuring that the IC member, especially the male IC member, asks the right questions so that the complainant is comfortable in answering or opening up, right? So that is also is one of the challenges that we have faced, because personally, when we had this training sessions for these IC members and we had this role plays, right? Leave aside the actual scenario, but even in the role plays, I was not able to ask the difficult questions, right? Even in the role plays. Imagine it being in a real case scenario, right? Training these things to the new IC members, especially for the male IC members, so that the complainants are comfortable and the complainants are opening up It is easy, since it is a very thin line. I mean, it's very easy for a member to ask a question which will shut off the complainant, right?
Absolutely.
So these are the challenges that we have faced, and yeah, it is all learning experience. I mean, we'll keep learning, we'll keep improving, and we'll keep improvising as well.
What you said is very, very interesting. I never thought about that as being a male, when you are asking certain questions, there could be some hesitation. I never thought about that. Really, really interesting. Thanks for sharing. Sumalata, if you could implement one new policy to prevent workplace sexual harassment, what would it be?
Well, nothing as such from the Medi Assist point of view, Srinmoyi, because as we already discussed that we have IC in place, the policies are in place, we have ongoing training. But well, taken Ruchira's feedback, the tips we have taken it so that we can implement it on that. So as you know that we have already adapted the gender neutral policy from the day one, right? And we continue providing the safe workspace for all our employees. But as an advice, if you would ask me, it's important that every organization should adapt the gender neutral policy so that it ensures equality irrespective of the gender. It promotes diversity and it even break the gender stereotypes, the power imbalances, right? So it really helps them. That's it.
Thanks for that. I think after this session, all of us, all the companies present here would definitely revisit their policies if those are specific to women. All right. So as we wrap up, I'd like to ask each panelist to share one key takeaway from today's discussion. And after that, I'd like to ask the same question to the audience, that based on all the things that we discussed so far, what's that one interesting thing that's going to stick with you? So starting with Ruchira.
I think I am quite happy that Dr. Srinath actually spoke about how a role of a male internal committee member, because very recently I handled a complaint where the aggrieved woman was actually very uncomfortable to speak about the incident that has happened to her. And we kept asking her, like, do you want water? Are you okay? Do you want to speak? Everything was fine. But at the end, I think she told us that, ma'am, you know what? I'm not very comfortable in speaking in front of sir. And we actually asked the internal committee member, and he was also very sensitive enough. And he said that, you know what, you guys carry on. I'll step out. And that's when actually the aggrieved person told us a lot of things, and the nature of things that have been happening to her. I don't think, I would have had the courage to talk about it in front of a man, right? Because I would have found, looking for that comfort. So as internal committee members, I think sensitivity is definitely there. And Dr. Srinath, I think it's commendable how, that the sensitivity, you uplift it. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think this is a very important key takeaway for me for this session, where we are actually talking about sensitive issues and practical approaches of handling a complaint. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sumalata, what's your key takeaway from today's session?
First of all, thanks for this platform to share our practices. All right. So while Shubhra, me, and Srinath, so though we are on the IC committee, but we hardly meet each other and share these points. So this platform has enabled us to understand what Srinath has to share his view and Shubhra has, and plus Ruchira being the legal practitioner, given quite a tips in handling the anonymous complaint, the making the posters, changing the posters frequently, right? So this really, we never thought of it. So definitely this is one of the key takeaway.
Thank you. Shubhra?
So, I think sensitivity is extremely important. I also believe that, empathy for survivors is extremely, extremely critical. There have been so many instances where, employees at least take the first step of coming to you, right? Or writing to you or raising a complaint. But then there's so many other factors, maybe cultural or social, that sort of pull them back, saying, now I would like to withdraw, or I don't want to talk about it anymore. My parents are saying, please don't, take it forward. So I think that's something that remains a challenge. And I believe empathy and constant, to be there for them. I think that's extremely important as far as the committee goes. So that's something that we truly believe in, and we make sure that we handhold them. And but there's so many times when people just come up and say that so and so is not allowing. I have a fiance who says, let's not get into all this. So I think that remains a bit of a challenge. But yeah, on challenges, yes, that is, I think, something that we should always be aware of and sort of support wherever we can and however we can.
Right. So, Dr. Srinath, what's your biggest takeaway from this?
I think being vocal about and encouraging to be vocal, right? I think that is the key takeaway that I think we should take across to our employees as well. That and also, as rightly said by Shubhra, the empathy factor, and to ensure that we are here to work, and that should be our only prime importance and nothing else, right? So I think that is the key takeaway from this session, and that is the key takeaway that we should take it back to our employees is what I think.
Absolutely. So, audience, what would be your biggest takeaway from the session? Feel free to use the chat and just write away. What's the most interesting thing? What's going to stay with you once this session is over? Something that you can go back and implement or suggest. Anything from the audience? Indira says, importance of gender neutrality, sensitivity, trust, and confidentiality, critical factors. Ichita says, like Ruchira's interesting ideas on changing posters on a regular interval for attracting attention. Another user says, be mindful of your words and gestures in workplace. Very true. Absolutely. I also, SOS device enablement, futuristic and revisiting display posters. Correct. Coming back to what Dr. Srinath says, absolutely. Many interesting ideas, and it actually, I think all of us would probably think, definitely all of us have one or two important things that we can actually go back and discuss with our internal committee team or suggest to our management, and definitely it would make an impact in our workplaces. So wrapping up today's session, we are 5 minutes late, considering we started at 4:05. I think it's okay. So a huge thank you to the Medi Assist team and Ruchira for sharing their insights today. And to the audience, thank you for participating in this interesting conversation. Like we all know, creating sexual harassment-free workplaces is a collective responsibility. We all agreed that all of the above, not any one team. And your presence here today, demonstrates your commitment to this cause. So thanks a lot. I'm sure together we can make a real difference. Baby steps maybe, but definitely soon. And have a great day. And we look forward to seeing you again at our next interesting session. So thank you, audience. Thank you, speakers.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Srimay.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.